I'm going to play the last few minutes of the Ron Paul Liberty Report, focusing on the crony capitalism, vaccinations, and the virus.
Responsibility of the implications of a bad policy, and of course, Washington's lifeblood is war. But you have some headlines that were bothering you today, so let's
Okay, this
get them off
one
our
has
chest.
U.S. strikes a $2 billion deal. That used to be a lot of money, but that's peanuts now because we only deal in trillions.
Yeah.
Okay, but we'll deal with this $2 billion. U.S. strikes $2 billion deal to buy COVID-19 vaccine from Pfizer. You mean that's part of that crony capitalism and this drug industry, this power? $2 billion. But 100 million doses of vaccine. And yesterday I think I talked about there's some people now arguing the vaccines aren't all that good, so you have to give them 2 shots
double up.
and wait longer. And it means you can't do anything until you get your second shot. It just means more lockdown thing. But this is more money. But the irony here is. They even admit they haven't fully tested this yet. What kind of art of a deal is this? You buy something you don't want, you're picking a poke or something like that. I mean, this is terrible. And besides, we think that vaccines, when they're necessary and good, they should be developed in the marketplace. But you don't have to worry. This is free.
No.
People will never have to pay for this, and they just go in. So 2 shots in order to keep tabs on people and make you wait another 6 months to make sure you're negative.
Yeah.
That exists. So that's on the cards, but I don't think this is going to get reversed. I think these deals are made in the dark of the night, and it's already been done.
Well, crony capitalism is the right word. Do you remember a certain individual who may or may not have used to have headed up the CDC, who made the rounds over these past few months on CNBC and elsewhere, talking up the fact that we've got to have a vaccine. Nothing else will replace a vaccine. We've got to have a vaccine. Well, let's look at the next clip. This will refresh our memories a little bit about who this person was. You remember the face? Scott Gottlieb, former director of the CDC. He was elected in 2019 to be on Pfizer's board of directors. So here's Pfizer's guy going around TV like an objective analyst about how we need a vaccine, and his company just gets a free $2 billion from the rest of us, the U.S. Treasury. That is crony capitalism at its worst time.
There's a lot of that. It's a hard thing to find. Matter of fact, I don't even like the word capitalism. I like that because it's been distorted so much. But the only way, if you have to use it, you should always use crony capitalism because, sometimes I'll try free market capitalism to try to distinguish it. But what we're talking about is our free markets, people that negotiate and make deals one-on-one, and people don't cheat each other. But I have one other one here I think we have time to go over. And this is a single item, and it comes from Huntington Beach, beautiful beach. And the headline is, this is somebody they were interviewing there. I don't believe it. Huntington Beach is a symbol of mass resistance as doubters abound. Maybe I should go back and visit that beach. But, the person that they were interviewing here, he says, I just don't believe it. I don't believe the rates are rising. They're inflated. It's another way of shutting everything down, of the Democrats trying to get what they want. And then he finally says something else. This is the best. This is the most direct advice to give. If you don't want to go outside, don't go outside. But that's way too radical. I mean, where are we going with that? You mean you're supposed to use common sense in personal decisions? No, that's not good.
Well, in another lifetime, I used to body surf at Huntington Beach all the time, so I know what kind of guys there are there in there.
I just got to interrupt. I live in Carpinteria near Rincon, and one thing I've noticed is, surfers don't bow down. They might hang 10 or do a Quasimodo, but they don't back down. And the same applies, I've noticed, to many athletes, and I'm sure non-athletes too have independent, but I think athletes tend to be more independent. So I'll go on.
Oh, you mean you're not going to stand up for this guy?
No, I mean in a good way. They don't listen to the government.
Oh,
that's the old heart of
when you do those waves out there, you become independent. Nobody
That's right.
props you up.
That's right. So you had another one that you.
Yes, I do, and I think that maybe you're really good on these statistics and things, and I'll see if you can figure this one out. Coronavirus infections 13 times higher than reported in some parts of the United States. And there's always Mickey Mousing around with these statistics. And my gut reaction is, well, that doesn't, it's an exaggeration, which they wanted. But what about if you're in South Dakota where they view certain things and they live in a rural state? That might be different than if you're in a nursing home in New York. That's the whole thing. So I think, again, it's fudging the numbers, but it was propaganda.
It is, and
in my opinion.
Yeah, well, the report was from the new report from the CDC. Those guys who said, don't wear a mask, don't wear a mask, don't do this, don't do that. 30 million are going to die. No, they're not. A lot of credibility there. It's the new CDC report, and here's the crux of it. Large numbers of asymptomatic people may have kept the virus spreading in communities. So that's the underlying. So basically, keep the fear alive, wear your mask.
That's right. Just propaganda, keep people scared, make people feel guilty if they don't have a mask on.
And the CDC researcher, Dr. Fiona Havers, who led the study, here's what she says. Here's her conclusion. Even those who do not know their infection status should wear a cloth face covering. So that's really what it's all about. Well, I'm going to close with some good news. We're actually going to move ahead 3 spots, if we can, to that one graph. I'm going to skip a couple of things because we got a little long-winded today. But there we are. Here's some good news. Here's from the Texas Medical Center out in Houston. These are the daily COVID hospitalizations. They have a negative 0.4% daily growth rate average over the last 7 days. It looks like the hospitalizations have peaked out in Houston or on the downslope of even as what we contend are grossly exaggerated, because if you go in for a gallbladder surgery and have COVID, you're a COVID hospitalization. So even taking that into account, you're still seeing that decline in hospitalizations. And let's look at the last one. Here's more good news. We would say good news, because that hospitalizations having peaked, that means that in the Houston Medical Center, which remember, just 3 days ago, they were ordering morgue trucks in because bodies were dropping in the streets. Well, it looks like they're not even going to have to go into phase 3 of intensive care unit room opening. They're in the lower end of phase 2. They just barely bumped over their normal phase 1 intensive care unit bed availability. So they have not gone even beyond the minimum. That's good news for everyone who actually cares about people. Bad news for the fearmongers and scaremongers, but it looks like we are over the hump. The question that we had it yesterday, we have it today, and we'll have it tomorrow. What are they going to do next to try to scare the heck out of us?
I think that's...
If you go to realclimatescience.com, Tony Heller, he does an expose on the Houston situation, explaining how the increase in infections occurred 2-3 weeks after the big marches, the big protests, which were all approved by the health authorities, all approved, and the marchers were mostly wearing masks, and yet the infection simultaneously showed up 2-3 weeks afterwards.
Key to it. Who's going to be the winner of this tug of war going on? And right now they need an enemy, or they need bad statistics.
Listen up.
If they don't get enough excitement by continuing the war against the virus, unfortunately, they're going to build up the enemy, in China, and that's worked out pretty well. They can combine China both with their
right.
secrets, and they spread the virus, this sort of thing.
Scapegoating China.
They can't exist without it. And I guess now that we've talked a little bit about Huntington Beach, we might just need more truth tellers, and we get the truth tellers out there, and they can't hide that forever. I think we have enough freedom left to do that, and I think our numbers are improving. But we don't have, we nickel and dime it, but truth is powerful, and they have not billions, they have trillions of dollars to play these games. They have war machines going on, and it's international. They've gotten this whole pandemic to be international, and also we stated that they're trying to make the concern about China international. They're bringing people together. So I think we're doing okay in the sense that more people are becoming alert to it, but we still have a long way to go. And I do want to make sure that we hear the Ron Paul Liberty Report, that we strongly, appreciate the support you have given us, because I do think that we see changes. We see the natural changes that occur because viruses do that. But the other kind of war is not so natural. It's done by evil people who stir up wars. And when I think back of the first decade of this century, it sort of makes me ill. But that's not new. That's been going on for a long time. And I have trouble understanding, it really isn't a high cost to have peaceful relationships with people, but there's the few people who can control the message out there and stir up trouble and demagogue the issue and scare the living wits out of people. That's how they've gotten this far with the regulations and the lockdowns, the imprisonments, and the violation of civil liberties over this virus. They've been just able to scare people, and people are still a little bit scared. So that's why these change in the statistics are going to be going to be very beneficial. They don't either listen to us or believe us, and there's a lot of people not, because we don't have that huge of an audience. But I tell you what, we feel good about the message being spread, and you have helped us do that, and we want to make sure you know we appreciate that. And I think the issue is very clear-cut. It's the issue of liberty versus authoritarianism.
Yep.
And we strongly believe in the concept of liberty to solve our problem. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today to the Liberty Report. Please come back soon.
Okay, that's it. And thank you for watching here. And you can go over and watch the whole thing at Ron Paul Liberty Report. I think this is July 22. Thank you.